I'd like to begin our Midrash reflection with a Native American prayer. Creator, open our hearts to peace and healing between all people. Creator, open our hearts to provide and protect for all children of the earth. Creator, open our hearts to respect for the earth and all the gifts of the earth. Creator, open our hearts to end exclusion, violence, and fear among all. Thank you for the gifts of this day and every day. Please be seated.
Well, I think we were probably all raised with the happy, romanticized version of Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims were grateful, the Indians had helped them, they invited them to this big dinner. Never happened. Not like that anyway. It seems that when they had enough, their harvest was coming in, the Pilgrims did what many people still do around the world. They shot their guns into the air. The Indians, the Wampanoag and Massasoit, the chief, heard this and thought they were rebelling and were going to attack them. So the Wampanoag got ready for this attack, and they went out toward the village and then realized, no, it was a celebration. Then they did stay to eat, but it wasn't the way we think of it, like, come to dinner, everybody.
Yeah, and the other thing that Terri just mentioned, you know, when the first Pilgrims arrived, where they were, it was filled with, you know, arrows being slung at them, and then guns. It was an uneasy peace at first, and what a lot of people don't realize is that the Pilgrims, when they arrived, had already a village in place because a plague had spread through the Native Americans and really decimated their numbers, and so they left this village and went off somewhere else to make another place to live. And so the Pilgrims, you know, walked into this village that literally, you know, off to the side were bones and bones of people who had died.
Yeah.
So that's the Pilgrims moved in there. And then they came, one guy, you may have heard the name Squanto.
Yeah.
Was a member of the village and actually came in to talk to them and spoke perfect English. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the first bond that got kind of the relationship.
It was. The Pilgrims thought, this is a miracle. It was no miracle. Squanto had been caught by English slave traders and taken to Spain. And there were monks there who got him freed. He went to England as a free man, learned English, and then came back to find the Patuxent, which was his tribe. Those were the ones who all died. And he got back and there was nothing there, so he began to live with the Wampanoag, but he was their translator. He actually became a translator for the governor later on. So if you have this guy, never heard English, goes to Spain, picks up English, comes back, he must have been a brilliant man to be able to absorb those languages like that. And it was an uneasy peace for a long time. Yeah.
Until the Wampanoag, I can never pronounce it.
Wampanoag.
Began enlisting those settlers, began to provide security and protection for them against some of the other rival tribes.
Yeah.
So they actually, you know, formed quite a good relationship.
They did eventually, but it was rocky at the start. And, you know, that all of this stuff that we're telling you has been part of our history, but we're never told that. I grew up in Massachusetts, the land of Thanksgiving. Never heard most of it, had to learn it on my own. And so we can see why many Native Americans call this a day of mourning.
Yeah, it is.
I read an article the other day that named a woman named Jordan Three White Horses, I think is her last name. And she suggested something. She said, celebrate, give thanks, but maybe make Native American dishes. I thought that was an interesting approach to reinserting them into their own history. I just thought that was kind of unique. Anyway,
and a lot of people are referring to Thanksgiving as well as Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah.
And we went out to, when we took our Southwest pilgrimage, some of you
were there.
Yeah, I don't know who was with us. You know, you can really see how the effects of what was done to the Native Americans are still there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the effects of it in terms of the reservations, in terms of the discrimination, is still really, really great out
Yeah.
there. And yeah, we need to remember the history.
The real history, and we need to do that for everything. Remember, not just the romanticized version.
Oh,
that's
no.
pretty
No, no,
watered
no,
down.
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Anyone have anything to add? We'd like to give you a chance during these
Yeah.
Midrash moments.
Or if you're thankful for something today.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you have to offer.
Well, I'm very thankful. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Elena.
Karen, you go.
Yes, Karen.
I'm very thankful for this community who really embraced my son's wedding, and which was just last month. It was a very small wedding, but the bride's family was from Taiwan, and we had last minute changes, and several people, Letitia and Jeanette, and of course Joan, several people stepped at Bailey and really helped with literally last minute changes that just made it the perfect affair.
Okay.
And it was just so lovely to be here. I knew everybody, you know, and we were married here, and my son was baptized here, and it just felt incredible to be part of this community.
And it was lovely, and we had the reception at Ascension House, which was wonderful. We decorated, and
It was so comfortable.
it was
so lovely. Yeah.
really nice. Had nice background music playing. It was lovely.
Elena.
You brought this up and you used the term miracle. I did learn about Squanto, and I was I'll just say astonished about the events of things that ended up with pilgrims arriving in Massachusetts, being able to speak to someone who spoke English. What, slave trade is awful, but that was gobsmacking. I'll just say that.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, it is awful, but it ended up helping to keep peace between the two. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely
Not
a
that
bridge
that
builder.
justifies it, it doesn't.
But it doesn't justify
Nope.
it. It's just like the Big Bang Theory. It's like other things that
Other things happen,
that are
yeah.
gobsmacking.
Yeah.
There's actually a name for that. It's called prevenient grace. It means something that happens that you don't see as a grace that later on provides one. So there's a word for that.
Yeah, well, people are coming in. Hey, Bob.
Okay, anything else that anyone has to add?
Wasn't Squanto important in crop, the way for the pilgrims? At least I was taught in Massachusetts that this was a friendly sort of thing, and that growing corn made a difference in some of the vegetables and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
That may have been a myth, but
What I learned was that since they were down on the Cape, they're right at the ocean, a lot of fish, and that's good food too, but
yeah.
you take the remains of the fish that you don't eat and plant it with the corn, and it serves as a fertilizer.
Yeah.
And that really bumped up their
The
vegetation.
Indians knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they did have to, the pilgrims needed some help in figuring out how to survive in this harsh winter weather, which none of them were really used to that,
Not quite
for the
that
most
bad,
part.
no.
But I think they did teach them how to store food and corn and make it through that time.
yeah,
It's just amazing to think about, isn't it?
it is.
Anybody have any relatives or ancestors that were on the Mayflower here? Or on the first group of boats that came over? The Winthrop Society is another one, 1630.
Well, Emily does, Emily Clough.
Emily Clough has, yeah.
Yeah.
1600 someone over here.
Yeah,
Later
me
1600s
too,
for me, yeah.
sister, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my ancestors, William Frothingham, and his family came over as part of the Winthrop fleet in 1630. Well, kind of like the Mayflower.
Kind of.
Well,
Okay.
everybody have a really nice day, and it is a day to be thankful for what we have, and especially for being here together.
And we are thankful for you, absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, well,
Okay.
amen.
Amen.